Welcome to Black X Wulf Entertainment, where stories of honor, strength, and the journey of the soul come alive. If you love epic tales of samurai and struggle, subscribe now to never miss an episode of Blade of Honor, Blade of Gold. Let the journey continue. The Ronin sat alone in a cold, windswept temple, staring at the blade of gold resting on his knees. Its gleaming surface, once so alluring, now seemed tainted, an object of malevolence. The fortune it brought had done nothing but hollow out his soul. Friends had been lost, his honor stained, and he felt the heavy weight of his sins. "Is this truly my fate?" he whispered, his voice barely audible over the howl of the mountain winds. The ghosts of the fallen, those he had slain or wronged, echoed faintly in his mind, their whispers pulling at his already fragile resolve. The Ronin had heard tales of a shrine hidden deep in the mountains, an ancient place said to hold the power to cleanse one's soul, to purge even the most cursed of weapons. It was his only hope. He had to rid himself of the blade's influence before it consumed him entirely. With a final determined breath, he rose to his feet and set out toward the distant mountains, where the path to cleansing awaited. The journey was grueling, more difficult than he had anticipated. As he climbed higher into the treacherous mountain range, the air grew colder and thinner, biting into his skin like 1,000 needles. His body ached from battle wounds, his strength sapped by the constant toll of the blade's curse, yet he pressed forward. He had no choice. The Ronin's mind wandered back to the stories he had heard of the shrine, of the ritual that could cleanse the soul and destroy cursed weapons. But there were whispers, too, that the shrine tested those who sought its power. Only those pure of heart could succeed. He wondered, in his current state, could he pass such a test? Days blurred into nights as he trekked through the perilous landscape. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the blade itself resisted his every movement. The sky, once clear, began to darken with heavy clouds. A storm was coming. As he climbed further, strange occurrences began to plague him. He saw shadows in the corners of his vision, fleeting glimpses of figures that vanished the moment he tried to focus on them. Whispers echoed on the wind, growing louder, more sinister with each passing day. The spirits of those fallen by his blade tormented him at every turn. "You cannot be cleansed," they hissed. "You are bound to the blade. It is your fate." But the Ronin clenched his fists and pushed forward. He would not be swayed by the voices of the dead. He was still alive, still in control. At least, that's what he told himself. As the storm broke over the mountains, the Ronin found himself at the entrance to the sacred forest. Towering trees loomed before him, their branches twisted and ancient, as though they had borne witness to countless tragedies. The shrine lay beyond, hidden deep within. He knew this was the final stretch of his journey. But as he took his first step into the forest, the blade pulsed with a dark energy, its influence growing stronger. It was as if the katana itself knew he sought to destroy it, and it would not allow him to succeed so easily. A sudden gust of wind knocked him to the ground, and from the shadows emerged figures cloaked in mist. They were not bandits or mercenaries, but spirits, the souls of warriors who had fallen under the blade's curse, bound to protect it for eternity. They hovered before him, their faces distorted by grief and rage. Their weapons, spectral and cold, glowed with an otherworldly light. "You are one of us now," one of the spirits spoke, its voice low and mournful. "Your soul belongs to the blade." The Ronin, though shaken, stood tall. He drew his sword, the weight of it familiar yet heavy with the curse that bound him. He did not want to fight, but he had no choice. If he was to reach the shrine, he had to face the wrath of those who came before him. The battle that followed was unlike any he had faced before. His opponents were not physical beings, yet their strikes were as real as his own. Each clash of their ghostly blades sent tremors through his body, weakening his resolve, testing his will. But he fought with everything he had, knowing that his only path to salvation lay ahead. After what felt like an eternity, the Ronin stood alone once more, surrounded by the fading wisps of the fallen spirits. His body ached, his spirit shattered, but he had survived. The blade, however, thrummed with dark energy in his hand, as if it had fed off the battle, growing stronger with each soul it claimed. With weary steps, he pressed on. The shrine was close now. He could feel its presence in the air, a purity that contrasted sharply with the corruption of the blade of gold. And then, after a final steep climb, he saw it. Nestled between two towering cliffs stood the shrine, bathed in a soft, ethereal glow. It was a small, humble structure, its simplicity a stark contrast to the grandeur of the cursed katana he carried. The Ronin's heart pounded in his chest as he approached the shrine, his hands trembling as he knelt before the altar. For a moment he hesitated. The blade had brought him fortune, wealth, power, things he had once longed for. But in exchange, it had taken his honor, his friends, his very soul. Could he truly part with it? His mind flashed with memories of those he had lost, of the friends who had betrayed him, of the innocent lives taken by his hand. With a final shuddering breath, he placed the blade of gold on the altar. As the Ronin performed the ancient ritual, chanting the words taught to him long ago, the air around him began to shift. A powerful wind howled through the mountains, and the ground trembled beneath him. The blade's curse resisted, its dark energy swirling violently as if it sought to escape its fate. But the shrine's power was stronger. With a final resounding crack, the blade of gold shattered into 1,000 pieces, its cursed energy dissipating into the wind. The Ronin collapsed to the ground, exhausted but free. The weight of the curse lifted from his soul, though the scars it left behind would never fully heal. He had been cleansed, but at great cost. As he looked out over the horizon, he knew that his journey was far from over. There would be no returning to the life he once knew, but perhaps now, with the curse broken, he could begin to find a new path, one forged not by greed or power, but by honor. Thank you for watching this episode of Black X Wulf Entertainment. The journey of the Ronin is far from over. Stay tuned for the next chapter of Blade of Honor, Blade of Gold. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell to follow this epic story. Until next time.